This is KMJ at KMJNow.com or wherever you stream. Welcome to the Marc Kapetan Show. This is attorney Marc Kapetan, your host. Today's show is brought to you by the Kapetan Brothers Law Firm. We've been serving the Central Valley since 1995. If you or anybody you know has been injured in an auto accident, a truck accident, or a motorcycle accident, give us a call at 559-498-8000. Or if you've been arrested or cited for a criminal offense, call us at the Kapetan Brothers Law Firm, 559-498-8000, Kapetan Brothers. We are the Valley's law firm. Hey, folks, it is never too old to teach a dog new tricks. And what is it? It's never too late to teach an old dog new tricks. That's what it is. And it's never too late for one to expand their horizons. In that regard, I have to thank my next guest for expanding my musical horizons and appreciation of a genre of music that I had little experience with. I started playing piano around 6 years of age. And as kids will do, I did what was best to please my dad, and that was to play his type of music. I played Benny Goodman, Tommy and Jimmy Dorsey, Harry James, and his favorite, Glenn Miller. All those big band sounds and songs like In the Mood and Moonlight Serenade. That's all I knew about jazz. Sure, I took music appreciation at Fresno State from Stephen Schick, Professor Stephen Schick out there. I think he's now in San Francisco as the orchestra leader up there. But it wasn't until a chance to help my next guest with a jazz recording session that I really got to know what jazz music was all about. Just like a criminal case, I studied the evidence. I listened to Blue Note recordings by Rudy Van Gelder, famous jazz producer and engineer. Sounds of John Coltrane and Wes Montgomery, and of course Miles Davis. I learned studio methods and tuned my ears and my brain to have a basic, very basic, compared to this next guest, understanding of jazz. The person responsible for my growth, my next guest, is a jazz bassist who has toured the world and played with the likes of Charlie Haydn and Wadada Leo Smith. He studied in New York and earned a master's in fine arts. He is also a recording artist and is currently a professor and director of jazz studies at California State University, Fresno. He is a very talented musician, a valued friend, and a great asset to our community. So I'd like to welcome to the Marc Kapetan Show from the Fresno State Music Department, director of jazz studies and a very hip jazz bassist, Richard Lloyd Giddens Jr. Welcome, Richard.
Hey, Mark, how are you?
Oh, see, and there's the jazz guy. Marcella, did you hear that right there? That's a jazz dude right there.
That's it. I think we're done.
That's it. Final close. Boom. Very chill of you. Let me ask you, man. Do I call you Professor?
Please don't.
I knew that.
Richard is totally fine, even with my students.
I knew that was going to be your answer.
I think it's not my thing. That's all I have to say.
I know it's not your thing.
Mm-hmm.
But for them to have a professor, is that your technically what your title would be, though?
Technically, as of today, I'm associate professor.
Oh, congratulations! Really?
But I just got the email yesterday that I'm an assistant professor now, but in July I'll be an associate professor.
Okay, that's because we were talking about it earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you are going to be tenured this next year, so that's good for you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
What I meant by that is for the students to have a professor of anything teaching anything is great. For them to have someone like you that is experienced and has gone around the world practicing the art of what you are now teaching, you got to give yourself credit to say, I may not want to be called a professor, but I am very well versed and educated in this art of jazz, right?
I mean, it's just what I've been doing for so long. You know what I mean? The fact that I've kind of fell into education was not my doing. I got asked to do it, and once Dr. Ben Boone, who teaches over at Fresno State, heard me play a gig at a fundraiser and came and found me in the parking lot and was like, "You need to be teaching bass at Fresno State. Who are you? What's your deal?
Really? Yeah, well, he didn't know who you were.
And they needed a jazz bass player at that point in time, a jazz bass instructor. So I, did the thing, started teaching jazz bass, and then they gave me a small group, like a quintet to teach, and then that turned into 2, into 3 of them. And then I took over like the second, like the B band.
Yeah.
And then the job opened, and when I went to apply for the job, I never in my wildest dreams thought that I'd get the gig.
Yeah.
For me, it was just like, okay, cool. I got these people here that after I'm done, they can tell me where I was successful, where I was unsuccessful. They'd be able to shoot me straight about if I was to apply for another job. You know what I mean?
So not only did you think it was temporary, but it sounds like you were somewhat maybe not reluctant, but hey, I'll do this for a while and then I'll move on, basically.
I didn't really know, because I was still playing a few groups based out of Los Angeles. I was still playing a lot with a couple groups based out of New York. I was still touring internationally with some groups from Europe. So it was a little
disconcerting.
No, I wasn't. I never went to school to teach.
Yeah,
I went to school to perform.
Okay, which brings up the question that I had. Whether it's reluctance, whether it's a sense of self, whether it's a sense of cool, quite honestly, and I don't mean that in a bad way, because I know how it is to be a musician and to be and I can imagine what it is like to be a jazz musician. Is there a sense of I'm not doing what I was meant to do? I'm not doing what makes me happy? Or have you fully come around to sit there and go, God, this feels just as worthwhile as it is playing in front of a huge crowd of jazz lovers?
Well, luckily I still get to do both, because I love being in front of the kids. Or the students, young adults. I love being.
By the way, you're how old now?
I'm gonna be 44.
Yeah, they're kids, okay, compared to you. So it's okay to say kids.
I know, but the technical term is that they like to be called students.
Oh, I get it. Yeah.
Or you know what I mean, because they are in college.
Yeah, it's a brave new world. Okay.
So, I love being in front of the students. I love being in front of the big bands. I love being in front of in the rooms with the combos. I love teaching all the electives that I'm teaching. Like, it's so fun. So
it's a different thrill for you, but it's just as rewarding to you.
But it also got me in a place to like actually kind of check myself and think about how I think about everything. Where if I was just touring all the time, you know what I mean, there would have never been someone asks you a question, how do you do this? It's like, I don't know. I mean, I guess I think about it every day, but I've never thought about my actual standpoint on where I am at this moment in time, which might be different tomorrow, which might be different the day before.
And we're going to talk about family and stuff like that in the on the next segments. But does it give you a sense of, as a jazz artist touring the world, it was a selfish thing where I was doing everything for myself, and now I realize there's this whole other side to life where I could do things for other people and feel just as rewarded?
Let's just say I still play as much as I possibly can, because I still need that element of filling my cup.
But was there a psychological change in you that said, I receive this great feeling and feedback, even though it's not helping me directly, it's helping someone else?
Oh, 100%.
Was it a life-changing experience as far as the fact that it was cathartic, it was psychologically beneficial to you, et cetera?
100%. I love working with the students, and I love seeing them succeed. I love seeing them grow. I love hearing their music outside of school. I thoroughly will do anything in my power to help the students get as far as I can help them get.
Yeah.
I can open as many doors as I can, and
let's pick it up on the next segment. We are with Richard Lloyd Giddens.
That was 10 minutes?
That was 10 minutes, yeah, I know. I talk a lot, I'm sorry. He's the director of jazz studies at Fresno State. We'll be right back after this. It's News Talk 580 105.9 KMJ. Welcome back to the Marc Kapetan Show. Hey, folks, check us streaming, right? at kmjnow.com or wherever you stream. Catch the podcast after the show at kmjnow.com. You can also check out the Marc Kapetan Show by going to the Marc Kapetan Facebook or YouTube, and you can check the video of the show. You can see young Richard Giddens, jazz professor at Fresno State, the handsome young jazz artist, chill, cool. All right, listen, that's enough of that. You all know about the Kapetan brothers, so we won't have to talk about the Kapetan brothers in our law practice. Just call us at 559-498-8000 if you
just
want.
Like that.
Just like that.
Simple.
Okay, so a touching moment during the break when we were talking, we are on with Richard Lloyd Giddens, Jr. He is a professor out at Fresno State. He doesn't like to be called professor, just call him Richard. Bass player, jazz bass player who's upright bassist who has played all around the world. Just a real talented guy and also a friend of mine. Touching moment though, because we were talking more about the psychology and what makes you feel good between teaching and between playing music and how it fills two different cups. And Richard, you had a great sort of quote. You said, when my students, and this is why I want everybody to go out and take, if you're into music, go ahead and take these classes from the professor, Richard Lloyd Giddens. You state that when my students are killing it in a jazz group, meaning in jazz language, folks, playing really damn well.
Playing great,
yeah. You said, I'm not a crier, but when my kids are killing it, I actually start crying.
I mean, I'm not a crier when I play, you know what I mean? Because I'm usually self-judgmental. I'm already thinking, you know what I mean? It's like I'm trying to take the self-judgment away when I'm performing to try to be as selfless in the moment to help as much as I can. But I've already done the work that I can with the students beforehand. So when they're out there and they're just giving it everything they have, it's like I get it totally emotional. It's an incredible feeling.
Okay.
So it's a different cup than performance.
But it also shows I don't know if it's a sense of dedication or a sense of ethos, empathy, whatever it may be. I'm trying to think of the right word, that you as a professor can disengage from the scientific left brain, right brain, whatever it is, analytical side of your analysis and actually be so emotionally wrapped up in their playing that it gives you that type of feeling.
Oh, 100%.
Oh, speaking of which, I understand that because I remember, and it's happened over and over and over now, but not quite like this first time. It's about 2000, early 2000s, maybe late 19. Oh, I take that back. It was 1993. I'm in law school. I'm watching the David Letterman show, and Esperanza Spalding comes on for her first, you know who I'm talking about, bass player.
93? She would have been like 12 years old.
I was in law school, I think. So that would have been earlier. I don't know, but I think you're right. So it must have been later than that. And I'm at home, and I used the term, I sat up after she finishes playing her famous song I sat up and I said, she just killed it. And I almost started crying like I am ready right now. And so it may be not manly of me to do this because I realized, number one, she just killed it. She had that smile on her face and that feeling. And now she's not a star in that sense, but she just made it to the pinnacle of her career right at that moment, and we were all sitting there watching it happen.
I mean, she's phenomenal. I've gotten to see her perform a couple of times. Her center of pitch when she's singing is just singing and playing bass at the same time is just absolutely astonishing.
Yeah,
and that's why Wayne Shorter, picked her. They wrote that opera together. But right before he passed away, it's pretty incredible. I haven't gotten to see it live. I hope they actually do a run of it at some point that I can.
What's the opera? See, I don't know that.
I can't remember the name.
Okay, yeah.
But
look up Esperanza.
Yeah,
Esperanza Spalding. Yeah, the feeling that you got, though, is what I was trying to explain. When you're teaching, okay, you have a jazz orchestra class. How many in an orchestra for you guys?
Sometimes 20, 22, 23, depending on if we're doing like modern compositions that, standard, like 5 trumpets, 4 trombones, 5 saxes, and guitar, bass, drums, piano. But then I like to do a lot of Afro-Cuban music too, or Afro-Caribbean or Afro-Brazilian music where we'll add 3 or 4 percussionists to the band.
Did you do that as a musician also?
What do you mean?
Play in an orchestra?
I played in Bobby Sanabria big band for a little bit when I was in New York, especially when I was at the New School. He had a class and he pulled some of us out to do live performances and stuff. But for the most part, I didn't play a lot of big band until I moved back to Fresno. I mean, I did a little bit when I started my master's up at McGill. I kind of rebelled against it, and I wouldn't be the musician I am today without that.
And you rebel against it because it's the music of your father, or what?
No. How it was being
I see. Okay.
presented.
Okay.
You know, because I grew up in a different era.
Yeah.
And
what, just really strict teachers, basically?
No. Just like I went to school next door from where we are at Buller Talent. I grew up skating in this parking lot of this building. We got chased out of here so many times. Played a lot of punk rock growing up.
Oh, that's true.
Didn't grow up with the dad. And there's a lot of things that, and I wasn't feeling, the director of the group.
Right.
And so it's really easy for me to check out and go, no thanks, man.
Is that related
in a
to
nice way?
Yeah, okay. And you mentioned it. Your dad passed away when you were 8 years old. Mm-hmm. The director is seen as a authority figure,
I
and
have
you
no
were missing
idea.
that. Was there an anger that you had?
No, just someone that I didn't dig the way they did it. Because when there's someone that I did dig the way they did it, it was totally like the best experience for me, and it's just like not for me.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Do you go back and do you self-analyze yourself? Do you
a lot? Yeah.
Do you relate those kind of things where I don't dig the way you did it to the fact that potentially there wasn't, that other side of the mother-father relationship in the family?
Maybe. For me, I just like to pick and choose of things that I have collected from different directors, being male or female or whatnot, like people that have been in charge that I've really respected, take things I like from them, take things I don't like from them, take things that I did like from someone, didn't like from someone, and you try to, like, if you see yourself doing something that is along the lines of something you didn't dig, you kind of check that.
Do you catch yourself relating back to the orchestra that you were in as a kid? Do you catch yourself sitting here saying, I'm starting to do that when you're teaching your kids out or the students out at Fresno State?
I hope not.
Yeah.
I hope not. Because a lot of it you've already kind of handled and dealt with. So you're always trying to find a different angle to relate to these young musicians, and not only do you try to support them in every way possible, you're also trying to motivate them in every way possible.
Right.
So if I'm not doing that by my performance as a musician when I'm touring or playing festivals or whatnot, or when I bring in guest artists to Fresno State and I'm performing with them, I'm backing them up. If I'm not inspiring in that way, and I'm, I don't know what I would, I think it just is all part of the big picture of pushing them through leading by example and by character.
Speaking about leading by example, Mom, wonderful lady.
Yes.
She's now former, let's clap. Thanks for Mom. Former director at Artists America. So she's into the arts. Was music a big thing in your family back in the day?
The music was always on. She was never the former director, but she was always one of the one of the ladies, one of the
board members or assistants
one of the moms.
out there. Yeah, right.
That was there.
Yeah.
They look to them to make sure it was okay.
But she was always into the arts, basically.
Totally. She was into. She did radio in the 80s. She
did? Mm-hmm. Like what?
She supported some Spanish language stars.
Yeah.
Tried to get them famous. And then she worked for the Mexican consulate. And all through that, she was kind of in and out of Centro de Bellas Artes and Arte Americas when that was happening.
Look at you. I see.
So... but there was always music on, to get back to that question, there was always music on at the house.
And was it jazz music? How do you get into jazz?
Well, Mom was listening to mariachi, ranchera,
banda,
Latin pop. Not really banda, but like Roberto Carlos and Julio Iglesias and stuff like that. And
I met Jose. You know who I'm talking about?
Of course, we had. We have those cassettes.
Showing Mom. Don't discuss Mom's age and the fact that she has cassettes laying around.
Well, I have cassettes laying around.
Exactly. But you got into rock and roll and punk and all that kind of stuff, and then eventually,
like my best friend that I grew up with here, we met in the Sandbox in first grade. His older brother happened to be the drummer of Let's Go Bowling.
Yeah.
So we would get babysit by Let's Go Bowling.
Real quick, is it that's
scary?
That's scary. Maybe that's the reason why. So I mean, real quick, because I got to go to a break here. Is going into jazz for you growing up, or do you not have that higher than thou mindset regarding jazz? Because I know there's a big fight between you and someone else in your family as to rock and roll versus jazz. Is it more of a grown up music, or is it just?
I think it's in a feeling and an aesthetic, and if it vibrates with you, if it resonates with you, whatever music makes you feel happy, whatever brings you joy, whatever brings you emotional content.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like that's what it's all about. It doesn't matter right and wrong. I mean, I love listening to rock and roll, and I've loved.
You played it for years and everything. Yeah. We'll be right back with Richard Lloyd Giddens. He is the professor and director of jazz studies at Fresno State University. Mm-hmm. We'll be right back after this. This is the Marc Kapetan Show on KMJ. It's News Talk 580 1059 KMJ. Check us out at kmjnow.com or wherever you stream. We are back on. I'm going to get right back into it, but I do want to do a quick promo for the jazz program out at CSU Fresno. The jazz program is looking for sponsors, for donations, whatever you may want to call it. We are on with Richard Lloyd Giddens from Fresno State. He's the director of jazz at Fresno State. He's also a great bass player. And was a touring musician, etc. You guys are looking for anything to help out with the jazz program?
Yeah, well, we're taking anything monetarily to kind of help us bring in the guest artists that I've been bringing in, but I've been asking a lot of friends that happen to be Grammy nominees or Grammy winners, to come in on like a quarter of their rate, or sometimes a tenth of their rate.
Yeah, and they're willing to do it, but
they believe in me and what I'm trying to do, and they want to be there for the students.
Yeah, but it's not fair to the musician because they are worth more than that.
100%.
And so you're just basically stating we would love to have funding. There's limited budgets from the state of California for your projects, and you're not only teaching the kids, but you're also giving back to the community by bringing all of these great jazz artists. And you're, like you said, Grammy award-winning artists.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm trying to, like, one thing that when you're asking about the emotional connection to this, it's like if I can make a hipper place than it was when I was growing up, then I might be inspiring for some kids to stay, some people who want to make a living as an artist here, because I believe that we could make it happen as a community. Well,
listen, and I'm not going to get into the story because I've told it too many times or whatever, but as far as making it a hipper place, when you introduced me at one of the local restaurants to Bernie Maupin, who's one of the players on Benny Maupin, I'm sorry, one of the players on Bitches Brew by Miles Davis, and he's here in Fresno to play specifically with you, for your students.
This one I was running a program down at Arte.
Yeah, and you have those type of connections that can bring these kind of people in. These are legendary artists that you're bringing in, and you just need to help with the funding.
Yeah, it'd be incredible, just because if I was able to say yes to everyone that hits me up to come play, a MacArthur Genius Grant Award winner just hit me up saying, I'd love to come do some stuff for your school. And they're like, how does $25,000 sound? And most universities can pay that.
Yeah.
And I went, how does $2,000 sound? Because $25,000 is my budget for 5 years.
Really?
You know what I mean? And it's, and other schools, like other CSUs, like I know that there's another program in the CSU system that works on a $70,000 budget a year.
Yeah.
And I get a $5,000. You know what I mean? So it's, and I'm not here to be a pity party or whatnot, but
no, you're advocating for yourself.
I'm advocating for the students.
And quite honestly, Fresno State's been great with you because they have you there as one of their professors. They have you the director, etc. So it's just a matter of having everybody work together and trying to find some funding.
100%. Because if we had a little bit of extra bread, to give, sorry, that's money,
in jazz terms,
to be able to bring in more guests, bring in, because not only when I'm bringing in these guest artists, they give a master class for the students.
Yeah.
And they do Q&As with the students. They also get to perform with the students. So the students get to back them up, which is
a thrill for the students.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then we get to learn their music. Sometimes they write brand new music that's never, like, world premiere pieces that we just did a world premiere for a large big band work by the great Michael Latias, alto saxophone player that lives in Berlin, that came out and played, and he was awesome.
Really?
And we learned this incredibly. When they set us the MIDI file, like the
electronic file,
the electronic file of what it sounds like on the computer, we were all kind of like, okay, this is going to be. I said, all we're going to do is just chip away at it.
Yeah.
And you should have seen his face in the rehearsal. Like, all smiles, could not believe what it sounded like live. And that there's these young musicians in their late teens, early 20s, crushing this incredibly difficult polyrhythmic thing happening that, like, some pros would have a hard time with, you know what I mean? And my kids did it effortlessly and just really was inspiring to them.
Yeah.
And then they leave Fresno State talking about how great of a time they had. So then more people reach out, and then it becomes this thing, and being able to pay people what they're worth would be incredible.
And then that was the next part about it, because you are giving back to the community in spades, because you now have these musicians who go out and they become musicians themselves, professionals. Fresno gets known as having this pool of great artists, etc. Yeah, no, I get it. How'd you get into jazz? What was the transition? What was that first song that you heard that you said, "Oh, forget the punk music, I'm going into jazz"?
Well, they both kind of happened at the same time, because I got an electric bass for Christmas from my sister's boyfriend at the time, and I walked into the band room here at Buller Talent, like 30 feet south of us right now, and brought this electric bass in, no case, like, it was $10 Orlando half size electric. I'd love to know where that bass is right now. And walked in the band room and said, "Hey, I got one of these for Christmas. Can I play in the band?" It's like, "Well, do you know what you're doing?" "No, dude." "Cool, come. And then I learned a couple tunes for I think we did like a Steely Dan Do It Again version, and then maybe a swing tune, probably Chameleon, another record that Herbie Hancock's Headhunters that Benny Maupin had played on. And Steve Alcala over at Roosevelt heard me play at a jazz festival and goes, "Hey, where are you going to high school?" I said, "I don't know, probably Fresno High." He goes, "Why don't you come play bass for me at Roosevelt?" And
the talent school, basically. Or
the School of the Arts.
Yeah, School of the Arts. Oh, I didn't know that.
But I played, all the punk band I had in high school were from two guys from Buller Talent.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so Steve kind of took me under his wing.
And what's interesting is that your first song is a Steely Dan song, which is rock and roll, but it also has a bit of jazz influence in their stuff too. So, what was the one song though that you heard that you said, this really captured my heart as far as jazz is concerned?
Freddie Freeloader off of Miles Davis Kind of Blue.
Right.
I remember I played Bill Ortiz, great trumpet player from the Bay Area, was in town. So, and if this kind of piggybacks on why guest artists are so important, he just came and did a rehearsal with the Latin band over at Roosevelt, started playing records and saying like what records were really inspiring to him. And he put on this Freddie Freeloader, and the beat was so infectious to me that I couldn't stop dancing around the classroom. And all the seniors were making fun of me because I was this little kid.
But you didn't care.
Zero. Yeah.
It freed
I didn't
basically.
care. That's a better way of. I'm really watching my language here, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm doing my best.
You could say it, and we can bleep it out.
No, thank you. So that kind of hit me in a different way, and then I heard more Miles Davis. I bought Nefertiti, and then I got Sunday at the Village Vanguard, Bill Evans Trio, and then I got into. Then Eric Grotz asked me, because I was playing good electric, asked me to play in the Fresno Youth Symphony.
Yeah. And
he put an upright in my hand for the first time. And when they were doing pictures at an exhibition, and I was cool. I played it and just the vibration you got from sitting on the amp. You just got from playing the bass just pressed against your body.
Yeah.
And that was kind of it. I got hooked.
I want you all to go. There's an album called Mimosa, and listen to Richard playing bass on it, because I was actually doing that today. I was listening to the bass and listening to that vibration, and you have a little rattle in your bass that is a sort of a defect in that one bass you had. I don't know if you ever got it fixed, but I love the sound of that.
It just
thing.
comes and goes.
Yeah.
It's like my hit.
I love it. We'll be right back after this. This is the Marc Kapetan Show on KMJ. It's News Talk 580 1059 KMJ. Welcome back to the Marc Kapetan Show on KMJNow.com or wherever you stream. So go ahead and stream us there. Folks, I want you to go out and buy an album by my guest for today, Richard Lloyd Giddens Jr., who's the professor out at Fresno State and also the director of jazz studies out at Fresno State. It's called Mimosas, Mimosas, Mimosas on Orendo Records. You could catch it elsewhere, but Richard doesn't like to talk about where else you could listen to it because no one gets any money for that, right, Richard?
The only people who get money is the
streaming service. Yeah, I get it. But Mimosas, I actually got to be a small part of that, which I really appreciate.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, no problem at all, and thank you. Believe me, because when you were talking about the jazz records that inspired you and stuff like that, I understood everything you were talking about, and I never would have if it wasn't for you. Say hi. I want you to say hi to Angela, by the way. How's Angela doing?
Angela's doing great. Hi, Angela.
Yeah, your lovely wife.
She had some long shifts today. She's now working for, I don't know, can I say?
Yeah.
She's working for Shahadi Family Foods.
Oh, good.
So she's doing a lot of stuff for the producers and
there you go.
All that.
Hey.
She's incredible.
Shahadi Family, Producers Dairy.
Local.
Nice.
She became more Fresno than me overnight.
I was like, about boom. To say, yeah. But I'm thinking sponsor for jazz series over at Fresno State. Sorry.
I could never talk about that.
Yeah. All right, listen. What is the hardest thing? We were talking. I sort of jokingly said it is jazz. The time that you grew up in music. What is the hardest thing for people, or what's the easiest way for them to start understanding jazz music? It's a very hard concept, and maybe because it's so free flowing.
I would say start with something that resonates with you. So if I bet you if you put on a sampler today of what is coming out in the music today.
What do you suggest? What's the first thing you should start with?
I mean, are you rock influenced? Are you hip hop? Are you R&B? Are you soul? Or have you never heard anything?
So do you
there's such a wide range of things to start from. It's like you can go to the two highest selling records of all time with Miles Davis, Kind of Blue, and Herbie Hancock's Headhunters.
And the only thing that I say about that is I had a huge learning curve. I had to start way back with big bands when I, with my dad. But then when it started working with you and stuff like that, I had to go to those early Van Gelder albums with John Coltrane because there was something a little more basic, just like rock and roll in the 50s is more basic than rock and roll of today's day in some respects. You have to learn that there's this pattern that's going to roll over X amount of times, and that every musician is going to, here's a jazz word, folks, blow, basically, over the same pattern, but with their just different instruments. And I guess, is that sort of the basic understanding of how a person is supposed to be introduced to jazz, to understand there's a pattern, it's going to be repeating itself, and then the musicians are going to be free-flowing over that pattern? I
mean, kind of when it comes to like jazz standards, let's say, take a jazz standard. Give me a name.
Glenn Miller, In the Mood. I mean, if you're talking that old.
In the Mood. Okay, so if you were to take that into a small group format, like a quintet, you'd play the melody of In the Mood.
Right.
And then you would take that same chord changes and repeat the chord changes over and over again, and people would improvise over those chords.
But the improvisation, especially when you get into the Miles Davis and stuff like that, the improvisation, and even more so with like the Mimosas that I heard with you guys, is the improvisation can be so far out there that it's hard for the average person to grasp onto it.
I don't know. I'm in the midst of it, so I'm trying to give everything that I have to the music at that moment. Right. Try to be as selfless as possible because I'm trying to be the best listener that I can to support everyone else in the band. Because if I start thinking about myself, then it becomes selfish energy versus me trying to think about these people that I'm playing with first, nonetheless the audience. Because we're not trying to make hit records here.
Well, and that's part of it. And that's why I think why it's sort of hard for sometimes the average listener to grasp onto it, because you're not trying to make hit records, because everybody would be playing the same thing for a verse, then a chorus, then a verse, then a chorus, and then the intro out.
I mean, it's like why you could be walking around Macy's or something, or walking around Smart and Final, and you're hearing a song that you've never heard before, but you somehow know the words.
Yeah.
Because they're piping music into you always.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If we could pipe something that's not trying to be based around making money or selling pants or selling broccoli or selling something, then maybe the world would be a much better place. If it wasn't all about trying to,
And that's as much of a political statement that Richard will make here on KMJ. Yeah, no, I get it, because there is a bit of an anti-establishment thing to it, and a bit of free your soul and don't try to be trapped by these things that we think music is supposed to be.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's the creativity that allowed everything to happen, and if we keep trying to recreate something that's already happened, then we're just living in the past.
Yeah, and it is the basis for much of the rock and roll these days, and including more progressive rock and roll like Yes and all those kind of things, and more modern things. I listen, it's me, dude.
Yes.
I'm
You brought up
60
Yes.
years old. Yeah, I know. Sorry, buddy.
Progressive rock, yes.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry. But it is the basis for a lot of things that you may not even realize, but it has caused trends. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, experimentation, basically.
Totally.
A lot of experimentation. Okay, latest recordings
Ooh.
for you?
I was part of let me see, my friend Danny Rosenblum. Danny Rosenblum, a great trumpet player, put out a record of all improvised music from a great club that is no longer with us called ETA, and it's called the Boom Sessions. And I happened to be on one of those nights that they brought in reel-to-reel tape into a club. Reel-to-reel tape into the club and recorded. And the club owner was Ryan Julio, amazing guy, would say, I don't want you to play any tunes. I want you to go in there. We're going to press record, and you just play.
Pure improvisation.
2 45-minute sets. That was it.
Now, but you mean, I don't want you to play any tunes. There's no pattern whatsoever.
Nope.
It's pure improvisation.
Pure improvisation.
Wow.
So that's that record. And then I was really fortunate a couple summers ago to make an album with a dear friend of mine who's the tenor player on my album, Mimosas. I was in Kansas City teaching at this all-star bass workshop. And we made a record while I was there. It was really, really fun. It's called The Notebook.
Yeah.
Or Notebook. Maybe just Notebook. So check out those records. I'm sure there's some other stuff that I've done recently that I can't remember because I write everything down now because I'm getting old.
Because you're getting older. Travels. You've traveled all around the world. I think there's a quote from you. Basically, I haven't been to Antarctica, but I've been to every other continent in the world. Yes, music's been very kind, and I've been very fortunate to see a lot of places. Still a lot of places I've loved to go to that I haven't been. Best audiences? I mean, Japan. Yeah. South Africa, always really excited. Brazil, incredible. I mean, a good audience here too is great. Yeah. Montreal. There was something about in rock and roll the Japan audiences where they quietly, silently listen, and then they all cheer at the same time, and then it goes completely silent again. It's just the neatest thing. It's out of respect. Yeah, out of respect. Totally different thing. unlike America. Yes, exactly. I get it. Any other tours or any travels? You traveled with Stomp for a long time? I did. Did you perform, or were you just playing bass? Oh, there was no bass, but I toured with them off and on for 15 years. As a performer? As a performer, on stage. It's got to be great practicing that rhythm with helping your bass playing too, right? Yes. I mean, but it's also you have to think about it in a different way, that you have to be a lot more malleable when you're performing with 8 people. Yeah. That aren't all musicians. Dude, but I'm doing a tour this summer with Sarah Gazarek. Yeah. She just won a Grammy for her latest record with her band Sage.
And we're going to be in Fresno at Maximus Recording Studio, I think July 28th.
Yeah.
And with great guitar player Larry Kuntz and Mark Ferber on drums. So
I just realized
check out my Instagram and check it out.
Listen, man, I had so much fun with you that I just realized that I lost track of time, and we are over, and we're going to do some editing to make this all work.
Take out that middle bit.
Richard Lloyd Giddens, Director of Jazz Studies at Fresno State. I'll tell you what, it was a thrill having you on. I loved it.
Thanks so much for that.
All right, buddy. I'll see you next week on the Marc Kapetan Show. This is KMJ.